What's going on, guys? This is Nolan Freeland, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Asheville Real Estate News. And today, we're pretty excited to have an exciting guest on. His name is Charles Dobens, and he is the multifamily real estate attorney. He's kind of like the multifamily guru when you get into the nitty-gritty of everything multifamily and apartments. And in this episode, guys, we just talk about it all. Why apartments? What are we going to see in a post-COVID world, the power of the cap rate, the 5 ways you can make money in apartments, and a bunch of other just great stuff. Charlie's really a wealth of knowledge being an attorney and an investor, and he's probably got 20 years of experience. And so, yeah, let us know what you think. Enjoy.
All right. Now, I know you just told me that you do the intro after the show, and yes. I've just started doing that myself on my podcast. Yeah. And what you're able to do by doing it that way is you're able to tell the people what they can expect on the show because you just did the show. Yeah. And that way, if the show really stunk, you're like, okay, got another podcast for you. Enjoy this one, click. As opposed to like, wow, just got off a great phone call. So that's. We'll see. We will judge how. So the people tuning in right now, they can think like, "Oh, that was kind of a boring intro. This is probably going to be a bad podcast," and they can now know why because I just told them how you work.
No, well, on that note, what happened is sometimes we do an introduction and say, hey, we're planning to talk about X, Y, Z, and then we wouldn't touch it because we'd either run out of time or we'd land on a different topic that would be, more relevant or more important. And so it was just like, instead of trying to predict the future, it's like, let's just rehash it and be.
That's exactly right, because some of the best podcasts I've had, like, I never even got to why I was talking to this guy, and it would go off on a total tangent. So, and that's the way my mind works. So we could be doing exactly this. So,
well, on that note, welcome to the show. By the way,
well, thank you for
joining us.
Has the show been going well so far?
So good. Talk about the theory of intros.
Hey, does Nolan ever speak, or does he just sit there with a smile on his face?
Some of both.
Yeah. Well, Charlie, do you mind just introducing yourself and kind of giving a background for everybody who might not be familiar and kind of what you do in life now?
Yeah. Well, I do as little as possible, which is good. I am the multifamilyattorney.com. I founded the Multifamily Investing Academy about 10 years ago. And that's my educational arm of my law and consulting practice. And all I do is multifamily. When you ask people what type of law do you practice, it's multifamily transactional law. But I really have a coaching, mentoring, consulting business that students come in and they learn multifamily investing the right way. And I take them through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And when I first got started in this business, I went to one of those gurus, one of those weekend boot camps, and learned everything you could, and you thought you were an expert in the field, and you went out there and started making offers. I mean, I think obviously my first phone conversations to brokers were the old conversations like, I'm looking for a B class property in a C area, or an A class, a B class in an A area, and the brokers must have seen me coming 1,000 miles away because everybody that gets out of a boot camp, that's all they're all looking for. And, if you have never been in that town before, those brokers are going to sell you whatever is not moving. And, you think you hung the moon. And so I didn't want to see my students, my clients get in that same, mistake or make other similar mistakes. So I started teaching people how to do multifamily investing the right way. Sometimes it can be a very tough love conversation where I tell a guy, hey, your deal sucks, and stay away from it. And the other thing too is that, which sets me apart, is I don't keep a cut of the deal like some of these guys do, which I think is the most unethical thing going, because if I knew that part of my compensation was derived by you closing on that deal, then how can I really be truly objective in providing you with advice about that deal? And so that's typically how I work. So I have a mentorship program, an online program. I have over 1,000 hours of training videos over the last 10 years. You get to see my weight fluctuate up and down. You can tell when I won the CrossFit loss weight competition, because I was like 79 pounds, and now like you look at me and like I couldn't even do CrossFit right now. So that's you've seen me through all my growth spurts,
all the cycles of life.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, talking about the Multifamily Investing Academy, I think that's a really good place to start because, we were both members. Yeah. And then with everything with COVID that happened, I decided to step out of that and stop pursuing the multifamily and for the moment, and just really focus on what my bread and butter was, has been historically.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Rodrigo, because, babies can't get new shoes now because you dropped out of the program. It's terrible. I mean, my kids haven't eaten. They're like, when's Rodrigo coming back to the program? Yeah.
It's tough, right? But
it is.
I really wanted to know kind of, I guess, your opinion on that and just know, like, how do you know when to push through things versus just focusing on what's important and when's the right time to pursue something versus not? Because I still have mixed feelings about the decision. Don't know if it was the right one or if it was the wrong one. It just felt appropriate at the moment, and who knows? I'm still wrestling with it.
Okay. Do you want to own
you've seen a lot, right?
Do you want to own multifamily?
Yes.
Okay. Now, wait a minute. Let's talk about that answer, because you didn't convince me on that answer. And, and that's the whole thing is multifamily is not a jump in, jump out type of decision. I mean, you've got to be all in. But the thing is, it's not all in, it's a process. I have people in my program that have been in my program for years and have never bought anything, but their goal is to own multifamily. Okay, that's fine. It's everyone has a different way of getting to their goal. Some people jump in and 3 months later they bought 3 properties. Other people 3 years later and they're still kicking the tires. Mm-hmm. But if you know that your future is going to be in multifamily, then you've got to every single day do something towards moving towards that goal. If you're not convinced that it's what you want to do, don't do it. I mean, it's fix and flips. You can sell the house and you're done. You're out of the business. Multifamily, you buy that property, you got to get up and burp and feed and change the diaper on that baby for the next 7 to 10 years. So you got to be all in. So Rodrigo, now I'm turning the tables on you. So why did you give me that wishy-washy yes answer?
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you've pointed out. And I think
well, of course you do, because it was all right. Everything I said was absolutely correct.
Exactly. But I think what happened is, on that note, I was like, I realized that maybe I just wasn't ready to jump in. And it might be not a desire situation. It might be more of a commitment, right? I'm just like, not you, Charlie, it's me type of situation, as far as just not sure if I was ready to commit the time and energy that, you talk about it all the time, that I knew had to be there, that it would be almost distracting to what my core business model has been up to this point, and didn't want that to, fall apart or hurt during all the chaos in the world.
Okay. So people can learn about multifamily from so many different sources on the internet. It doesn't cost them anything. If you're just trying to figure out if that's what you want to do, don't come into my program. I mean, I have the best training out there, but don't spend the money. Go find out if this is really what you want to do. When you make the decision that this is what I want to do and I want somebody to walk with me every step of the way, that's when you join the Owner Forum. That's when the Owner Forum program is the right thing for you. And let me tell you something. And this is, I haven't announced this yet. I don't know when people are going to see this, but I'm taking the Owner Forum off the market in the next couple of months. Yeah. It's been fantastic. It's been great. I absolutely love it. The people that are in the Owner Forum now will continue to be in the Owner Forum, but it won't be available for access to anybody new after the next couple of months, because I am actually going to make it better. And what's going to happen is I'm actually working with another attorney who specializes in securities law, and we're putting our two teams together, and we're saying, when you sign up with our new program, it's called the Multifamily War Room. When you sign up with a multifamilywarroom.com, you will, everything is .com. Even like charlesdobbins.com, everything is .com. But when you sign up with the Multifamily War Room, it's a holistic approach to being in the multifamily business. We are going to help you build and design and create and get up and running your multifamily business. Every single aspect of it, from the time you said, I decided this is the name of my company, all the way towards you're closing your first deal. And that includes the raising of the private money, all your securities work, all the building of the business, everything you can imagine is all going to be available in one roof. Because most people don't realize that, hey, yeah, I want to own multifamily. Now I have to go, start syndicating deals and raising private money. And, well, that's going to cost you another $25,000 with a securities attorney. And, now you got to start all over again. We're just going to take it all in one package, turnkey. Everything's taken care of for you. It's almost like the way I described it when we were first putting it together is like we are creating a franchise model for a multifamily real estate investing business. So you're going to get all the elements necessary to have the business up and running on day one. Just go out there and find the deals, and we'll get you in this business. And so that's what's going to be happening. We're transitioning the owner forum to the Multifamily War Room. And
that's a pretty exciting transition then. Yeah,
it's going to be really cool. It's going to be cool. And we'll have a big fanfare blowout, but it's the way we see it. See, the problem is, and I've seen this and I've spoken to my partner on this, is that people, it's almost like a cafeteria style training, and they don't realize that, I think I'm going to start over here and then I'm going to do a little bit of this. And they don't realize they have to put all of these elements together at the beginning to have the whole business. You would not, I teach my students, as much as you're looking for deals, as often as you're looking for deals, you've got to also be looking for money. And I say that mantra, I say that all the time. And these guys are like, they finally get a deal into contract, like, hey, now what do I do? How do I raise the money? I'm like, what have you done the last 6 months?
They need to go hand in hand.
That's what this war room is going to do, is to make sure that you've got all the systems in place to start building the leads and generating the sources of revenue for your syndication.
So, Charlie, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. Oh my
gosh, his microphone works.
He speaks.
Rodrigo, oh my gosh, look at it. He's not just a pretty face. I thought it was like eye candy here. Jeez, gosh.
So I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum from Rodrigo. I'm all in on the multifamily. Every day I come in, I look at deals, I talk to people. I'm trying to
something, Nolan? I knew you should have dumped that dead weight a long time ago.
Well, he did actually.
Oh, he did. Yeah. Well, I don't want to get into it, girls. Come on, I don't want to get into it. All right, come on.
I guess my question is, we've had a couple of conversations on this podcast about multifamily, but not so much about the raising money side. And that's something I haven't put a whole lot of intention into yet, because I feel like if you have a deal, then you can find the money for it. So what does someone need to do to start going out there and trying to build those relationships to raise the capital to close the first deal?
I'll tell you, there was one guru out there that was his mantra. If you got the deal, the money will come. And, that did happen for us. And we were successful. We found the deal, and then we went out and found the money. But that's not always the case. When you come to my program and we sit down and have that initial phone conversation, and we start talking about how, I have no friends, I have no family, so where am I going to get the money? And like, okay, well, we've got to work on that. Don't think it's just going to automatically, magically appear. You got to build the structure of your business that generates this. And every successful person has done that. Even if you haven't got a lot of friends and family, you still have a vehicle for trapping these friends and family into your program. And that's what you have to do, because regardless of you having the biggest friends and family network, you are still going to have to educate these people as to why multifamily. You've been studying multifamily, you've been working on it, you've been sending out offers. but they haven't.
Yeah.
They don't know what a cap rate is. They don't understand the power of the cap rate. They don't understand why multifamily is the best business in the world to be in. You need to bring them along so that when the time comes, it's a flip of the coin. Now, one of the things that we did when we were first getting started in the business is our database of friends and family got communication from us all the time. If they said they were interested in possibly being involved in our transactions, they got put on the list. And whenever we made an offer, they knew about it. Whenever the offer got rejected, they knew about it. They knew every step of the way, and they started getting into it like a soap opera. Oh, how's it going? Like, hey, what happened to that other deal? Oh, let me tell you about that other deal. And so when the time came for us to finally get a deal under contract, to finally go through the due diligence, say this one's a winner, everybody's like, oh, all right, I'm ready. Here's my $25,000. Here's my $50,000. But if you don't build up that infrastructure to do that at the beginning, your business is a one-legged stool, and it's just not going to stand up. So that's part of what the Multifamily War Room is doing. Is it's making sure that you have all elements of the business in built and ready to go on day one.
Do you remember when you were starting to have those conversations? What was the hardest first conversation to have around asking for money? And how that went? Do you remember if it was like a success or it was just total chaos?
No, it was pretty easy because it was friends and family, and we had been having conversations with them, and the initial phone conversations were never, hey, would you be willing to invest $50,000 in my deal? No, it wasn't that way. We were so far beyond that point when it finally came time to ask for money that it didn't even feel like we were asking for money. The initial conversations were, hey, listen, I sold my business. Yeah. We burnt the ships. I am in buying apartments. I've always wanted to do it. I mean, this is my life's passion. And, I'll keep you informed every step of the way. Hey, as time goes on, I'm going to need people to invest with me. Do you want me to keep you on my list? Can I keep you on my list? I mean, would that be okay? Oh, great. Super. I'll put it on the list and let everybody know. Then it just starts to feed upon itself. It became so easy. So that's how you need to do it. You can't, spring it on your grandmother, at Thanksgiving dinner, like, hey, grandma, can I have my inheritance early? That's not a good way to start your business.
Doesn't go over well.
Didn't go whether my grandmother had money or not, and she didn't. It didn't go over well. So, yeah. So that's the way you got to do it. Is you got to make it part of your mantra, part of an extension of your arm, is to say, hey, this is what I do, and let me know. And the easiest way to do it is to, it's almost like a form of reverse psychology, is you don't ask Nolan, would you like, to find out more about my investment opportunities? You say, Nolan, this is what I'm doing. Do you know anyone that might be interested in me telling them more about my apartments and what we're doing? And it's like, oh, this guy, Nolan would say, oh, this guy's got money. But Nolan would more likely say, well, I would like to know more about it. Put me on your list. Oh, you want me to put you on? Oh, okay, great. Excellent. I'll put you on my list. And that way you don't sitting across from Nolan over a beer, you don't put any pressure on him to, say, nah, I'm not really interested. Right. Now you're deflecting it. You're like, he's helping you find somebody to build your database. So that's how you do it.
On that note, so, I guess kind of going back full circle to the beginning of the conversation about jumping in, both feet into the deep end as far as owning multifamily.
Actually, the beginning of the conversation was whether this is a good podcast or not, and how the introduction was going to go. So
it was, and then we had a certain Don Rickles on, and
listen to you! Oh, trying to butter me up right now, aren't you? So. I can't believe a kid your age even knows who Don Rickles is, Nolan.
If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't.
Oh my God!
I'm in the dark about this one. I have no idea.
Obviously, Rodrigo never watched any of my videos. So
I did a lot of hours.
I am the Don Rickles of multifamily. I said,
did you?
I was doing a podcast with Whitney Sewell, nice guy. I've done a couple with Whitney, and he's asked me the questions, what's it like coming to one of your events? And I said, well, I'm like the Don Rickles of multifamily. And he just kind of like stood there and stared. Said, you don't know who Don Rickles is, do you? And he goes, no, I don't. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, and then Nolan just admitted to the fact that he didn't know who Don Rickles is. And so Nolan, let me tell you who Don Rickles is. He's the voice for Mr. Potato Head. Does that mean anything to you?
I didn't know that, but after I heard that podcast, I did look him up.
Guy was a genius. He was a genius.
Yeah, I still don't know who Mr. Potato Head is.
He couldn't survive today. He could not survive today.
Well, talking about today, so Charlie, like, you have the option to either buy or to invest in multifamily to be owners, right? Those are your two options to be. Well, do you think there's one way that's better than the other? Or is it just a matter of like preference?
That's an interesting question. I'm probably going to give you my answer is going to go in a different direction. But one of the things that I get a lot of calls from people over is, hey, I want to be a GP, or I want to, I've LP'd in deals, and now I want a GP. Let me explain to you what that means and how you're coming about it all wrong. So typically in a partnership, you have the general partner and then you have limited partners. That's the definition of a limited partnership. Otherwise known of as a sponsor, a GP is the sponsor of the deal. He's the person or entity that put the whole deal together. Then you have the individuals who are looking to just put money in the deal. They don't want to be involved. That's your limited partner. Though that terminology is correct for partnerships only. If you're dealing with a limited liability company that you're investing in, you don't have partners, and don't use that terminology. You have the members. Everyone is a member, but you can have Class A member, Class B member, Class C. And the beautiful thing about the LLC is you get to design it any way you want. So typically the syndication group of the LLC, which was the sponsor or the general partner in a partnership, they are the syndication group. Let's call them Class A members. So their membership looks, acts, and feels like a general partner, but they're all members. Then they go out and they raise private money among the people with just cash that don't want to have anything to do with the operations of the property. Those people are also members, but they're not going to be a member of that Class A group. They're going to be Class B. And they don't get their voting rights are entirely different than the Class A members. So that's how we typically structure a syndication on a limited liability company. And there's so many different ways to slice and dice it, which is the reason why I think the LLC is the most beautiful form of entity structuring there is. So people come to me with the terminology. I have been an LP, which means a Class B. And now I want to get out there and I want to get the experience of being a GP, Class A member. And that way, when it's my turn to go out and syndicate a deal or to be the sponsor on a deal, I will have the experience. And so what they do is they get into some of these guys' deals, and that sounds so mafia-like, some of these guys' deals, and they say, okay, make me a general partner. I'll put up $50,000. Make me a general partner, and I'll learn how you guys operate. What they have done is they've just now joined a group of people that they've never worked with before. They don't know what the capabilities are of these people. They don't know how ethical they are. They've left the protection of that limited liability person, and now they've opened themselves up to general liability. So that if things go wrong, they're now screwed. And just so that they could say they're a general partner, and somehow that magically makes them qualified to go out somewhere, for another deal, to go out to another deal and sponsor another deal. It doesn't work that way. Hey, if I'm right in the middle of my money raise, and if I am right in the middle of my money raise, and that money raise, I'm short $100,000, and someone comes up to me and says, hey, I got $100,000, but I'd like to be a general partner. Guess what? You're a general partner. Come on board. It doesn't mean anything. The person could have remained a limited partner for the same $100,000 and had the protection, and now they're a general partner. Now they have to look over their shoulder every single day because they're now part of this group. So I see a lot of people, coming into it the wrong way. We syndicated our first deal. We had no experience. We had never done it before. We didn't know you were supposed to go and be a general partner somewhere else for experience before we went out and did it ourselves. You know why? Because you didn't. You just get out there and you call yourself a general partner, you call yourself a syndicator because that's what you're doing. Well, guess what? You are one. So go enjoy yourself. So you don't need to go through all this rigmarole. You just get out there and you and do what you want to do and put it all together. Get advice. Ask for. I mean, you're in the multifamily war room. You're covered. We're going to be covering you every step of the way, making sure you do everything correctly. So that's how the system operates. So I don't know that rambling.
No, I mean, it sounds like
now, Rodrigo. Now you're glad you waited on the introduction. Now, like, okay, yeah. So
thanks for checking out this podcast. Feel free to skip it. Go on to the next one. Best intro ever.
Sorry, guys. I apologize. I was doing so well.
No, well, so I think. Well, I think what you touched on is something that I guess is kind of where I've sort of started to realize, or that my learning curve is you don't have to be an active contributor to be part owner. And there's that choice where, I mean, you obviously, there's less upside if you're a Class B member than Class A, but then there's also less work or less liability, right? Is that a fair way to look at it?
Not necessarily. Okay, so less return. There could be less return. That's all determined by the Class A and Class B definition. The definitions could be exactly the same. They could be like, oh, everybody gets the same return, whether you're Class A or Class B. So that's all defined in the operating agreement of the LLC. Like, for instance, we did a particular deal where the Class A got their $100,000 bought a little bit more membership interest than a Class B membership person. So we were the syndication group. Now, what was it that truly distinguished us from the other group? And this is going to answer your question when you're talking about more risk and more liability. The real additional risk on that group between Class A and Class B was the fact that the Class A members signed personally for the mortgage. And as a result of that additional risk, they got more reward.
Right. And
that's what distinguished the Class A from the Class B. So that's one example of how you can put more where a Class A syndication group has more liability on their shoulders than somebody that isn't. And because remember, ultimately, you're all protected by the corporate shield of the LLC. Yeah. Well, hey, Rodrigo, can you check to see if somebody wound up Nolan's battery? See if he's still understanding what we're talking about. See, there you go. Okay.
I have a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just a really good listener, first of all.
This is a podcast. It kind of requires both sides to kind of give and take a little bit. So,
why apartments? Why should, in your opinion, why should someone look at apartments over storage or office or mobile home parks or anything else?
Single family?
Okay, listen. How much time do we have? I told you.
We got maybe 10 minutes at most right now. So.
Okay, first off, let's talk about multifamily as a real estate class. Everybody needs a place to live. You look at, hold on one second, hold on. Okay, so I have 162 pages of charts right here. So why don't I explain it to you very slowly, and we'll use the pictures, okay? Societal shifts happen, all right? Now actually, this is from a book called Big Shifts Ahead. I highly recommend it. Was it Jake and Gino? I was on their podcast. They were on my podcast, and they recommended that, they recommended the book I've become an expert on. I love this book, Big Shifts Ahead. People born in the 1990s, 73% of them will not own homes. They will always be renters. That's just the way life is moving. Home ownership does not have the tax benefits like it did back in the 1980s. That's gone. People want to have more freedom. They don't want to have the burdens of home ownership that exist. So our society is shifting more towards multifamily. In the last 5 years, it was a census.gov showed that out of the 150 largest MSAs, only 3% of them had more supply than they did demand for apartments. 147 of the top MSAs had more demand than supply. You cannot find apartments. You come out here to Southern New Hampshire, where I am right now, and we're building. This is my whole focus is now going from owning and operating to I want to build and construct workforce housing because the demand for it is so high. You can't find, there's a waiting list for non-A class property in New Hampshire. You just can't find it. And that's the case in 147 MSAs around the country. So from a demand and supply standpoint, multifamily is unbelievable. Multifamily is also, because of the power of the cap rate, and I teach this in my class, the power of the cap rate shows you why multifamily is phenomenal. Give you an example. We base value of multifamily on cap rates. The lower the cap rate, the more valuable the property. And people are like, what do you mean? I mean, a 10 cap property is less valuable than a 4 cap? Yes. And it all has to do with a little simple formula. Purchase price equals the NOI, net operating income, divided by the cap rate. All right. So what that means, that if I increase my net operating income by $1, okay, that means I increase my rents by $1 and my expenses stay the same, or I keep my rents the same and I drop my expenses by $1, and that $1 drops down to my net operating income line on my trailing 12 financial statement. If I own a valuable 4 cap property, a nice Class A property, and I increase the NOI by $1, my children's net worth has just increased by $25. How many $1 increases are you going to try to get? And how much of those $25 increases is going to start to grow before you become a multimillionaire in multifamily? Just do the math. Use that same formula. If it's a 10 cap and you increase it by $1, your children's net worth is increased by $12. Okay, 6 cap, $16. That's it. That is how we value multifamily, and that is how millionaires are made in multifamily. No other business is like that. You own a Subway franchise, how do you make $1?
I mean, you do realize that my family is in Subway franchises.
Okay, you know what? This is so funny because I used this example, just pulled it out of my head, and these people came up to me after my presentation and said, you know, we really understood your presentation when it came to Subway franchises because we own one. And I was like, oh, geez, what did I say wrong? Now I'm going to be in trouble. That you got to sell a sub for more than $1 in order to make a profit.
Yeah.
In multifamily, you increase the NOI. You ask the tenant to increase their rent by $1. You're now $25 richer. Can you do that in Subway? Hell no. No other business is like this. Now, here's another thing. How many ways do you make money in a Subway franchise? One, you got to sell the sub. In multifamily, there are 5 ways to make money. You can increase, cash flow, meaning you turn a profit every month. Appreciation, meaning every time you increase the NOI and the value of your property goes up. Mortgage pay down, even if you don't increase the mortgage at all, you have no increase in your NOI, you barely break even on the profit, but you pay down that mortgage note every month, you amortize that note. When you go to sell that property, I mean, in 20 years after you have a $20 million loan, okay, you just made $1 million and somebody else paid for it for you. Acquisition costs. If you decide you're going to syndicate a deal and you build in a little 3% acquisition cost for you, that's another way you make money in this business. And then the final way that people always overlook and they don't take into consideration is ultimately when you get in this business, you're going to get to a point where you are going to be the property management company. And when you are the property management company, the first 5 cents of every dollar that you pull in goes right into your pocket. That's what's going to pay your salaries. That's what's going to pay your tuitions. That's what's going to pay your mortgage. And that's a huge difference over these fix and flip guys who only get paid at the closing table. With multifamily, you get paid every single month. And that's that's the income side of the business. That's what's going to provide you with a very nice lifestyle. Everything else I talked about is to build up your assets. How many businesses provide you with ways to build up your income and your assets the same way? Multifamily is brilliant. It's genius. It's the best business in the world to be in. Mic drop. That's it.
Great. Last question, and we can wrap it up here, and you can tell us how we can learn about the Underforum and everything else that you got going on. Post-COVID world, what do you see us going into? What do you think's the effects of this are going to have on multifamily real estate, the economy in general? Kind of what's your, I guess, crystal ball say about the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed the way we buy property as far as the due diligence process goes. We can't get into everyone's unit. There's and same with the Fannie and Freddie Macs. They have put more reserves on us, putting the burden on us. New investors see that as a problem. I see that as a huge protection. When I first got started in this business, if you could fog up a mirror, you could get a mortgage. You could get a multifamily mortgage, and that was not good for the industry because when the market turned, boy, I mean, I lost property. Everybody lost property. It was a disaster, and it took us years to rebuild. And the good thing about that turn was that the underwriting guidelines from multifamily became more stringent. They became tougher. You had to show that you were qualified in order to make it happen. In the owner forum, we make you qualified. We help you get qualified for those mortgages. So that added protections, and as a result of that, 10 years later, multifamily is a very sound investment because the banks have been protecting you. Now along comes COVID, and the banks say, we're going to need more protections. And okay, fine, we'll give you more protections because we want our industry to be safe as well for the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. We don't want to have another repeat of what we did back in 2007, 2008. So please, definitely that's how you need to look at these changes with COVID from our industry standpoint. I've seen people talk about the fact that this is really we're not going to see any semblance of normalcy until January of next year. I mean, that's kind of when we're thinking we're going to get back on track. So that's the concern that we're all having is who can survive. Maybe this is going to create opportunities, but remember, this is impacting everybody. Back in 2008, it impacted those people who were over leveraged. Nowadays, this is, those people who are still over leveraged are still running scared, but we don't know. I mean, even if you haven't over leveraged your business, if you're not getting the revenues in the door because of COVID, you're going to start sucking wind just later rather than sooner. So that's the way to look at COVID. I'm not going to sit there and I mean, it was like when it first happened, like no problem. Yeah, well, guess what? It's and one of the issues that you're seeing is nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. And you can't say, the Democrats are pissed at the Republicans because they did this. And the Republicans say, you don't know what you're talking about. And you know what? Everybody's right. No one knows what they're talking about. And, for instance, I looked at it yesterday, huge spikes in Texas, huge spikes in Florida. Now, I know that granted there are explanations for both. New York City or New York, it's starting to flatten out. So what happens? You go back to my kids moved out of New York City. I don't think they're moving back anytime soon. This is why I need to build workforce housing, get them out of my house, because I was an empty nester for a while there, and now look at me. So you don't really know. You just gotta. Right now, I'm telling my students, you make offers. Just make offers because you got to get your name out there. You got to let people know that you're in this business. But at the same time, just start organizing all the aspects of your business and start putting it all together. And that's what we're going to do with the War Room. So
awesome. Well, on that note, how do people get in touch with you about joining the War Room or the Multifamily Academy, depending on timing, I guess?
Yeah. So just check me out at multifamilyinvestingacademy.com or themultifamilyattorney.com, and you'll see all of the updates. I'll keep everybody informed about what's happening, and I'm very excited about the Multifamily War Room. It's going to be a huge change in this business. I mean, it's going to be where people go to get started and build a multifamily business. And I am passionate about multifamily. I think you could tell that I thought to myself, when Nolan asked that question, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, setting me up here for, seeing how fast I can talk. But I love it. And I love helping people, get started and do it the right way and don't make the same mistakes I made. And we had a coaching call the other day, and I had one student just before I went on vacation. I said, hey, listen, how was your year? And he said, I bought 3 apartment complexes this year, and I can't thank you enough. And that was just the coolest thing in the world. So yeah, that's what it's all about.
Cool. Charlie, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thanks, guys. And I like how Rodrigo, your office, it seems like a little bit nicer than Nolan's.
It's actually my office. I'm the one who got kicked out into the hallway.
That is true.
Thanks for offering, Nolan.
Yeah. Well, Charlie, thanks so much. Really appreciate it, and thanks for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. It was good talking with you.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
have a great one.
Talk to you. Bye-bye.
See ya.